With less than 2 weeks until the NHL regular season commences, the Calgary Flames are getting into the nitty gritty for selecting the members of their final roster. Certain players have stood out and made their case to make the team, but one massive question still remains. Who will be the third member of the Flames' energy fourth line? Last night's preseason game gave us some big insight into answering that question, which is what we will try to do in this video. But first, I want to welcome you to Flames Digest. I am Mark Griffith. If you're new around here and you love the Flames, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest news, updates, reports, and rumors revolving around your Calgary Flames. We would love to welcome you to the Flames Digest family. And we're going to answer that question of, kind of who's going to make the roster sort of thing, who's going to be that third member of the fourth line alongside Ryan Lomberg and Kevin Waza Rooney. But before we get into that, we actually do have a couple things we need to talk about first. And one of them is a bit of a roster update here. So as we know from yesterday's video, the Flames did send Zane Parekh back to Saginaw of the OHL, but they weren't done making moves yesterday as they did end up making quite a bit more if we get into here. So Flames reduced training camp roster, 6 players assigned to the AHL's Calgary Wranglers, and this comes from the Flames themselves. So it's not sending players, young players back to junior here. It's more so just sending players saying, hey, look, you're starting the season with the Wranglers. Does that mean that at some point they won't make it to the NHL level and play for the Flames? It absolutely does mean they have that chance. It just means that for now, focus on, the AHL team. Focus on the Wranglers for now. That's where you're starting. And if we get into the players, so the Calgary Flames announced today, which is now yesterday, that they have assigned the following players to the Calgary Wranglers of the American Hockey League. Parker Bell and Lucas Siona, a couple left wings. Yoni Yermo on defense. Jaden Lipinski, a name that we really haven't mentioned much on the channel at all, or you don't really hear much in the media anyway, but interesting to see how his development will go in the AHL this year. Jeremy Poirier, so he's not going to be one of those kind of fringe D-men that has the chance to make it to begin the season. He will be in the AHL. And then William Stromgren once again at left wing, which is a very interesting here because all of these players, if you take a quick scan, have a good chance of playing some NHL minutes this year. Now, certain people are probably more likely than others. Stromgren was really, really good at the end of last season, so it'll be interesting to see how he starts this season. He very well could see NHL minutes sooner than later. In terms of defense, I would assume Poirier has a better chance of seeing NHL minutes than Yoni Yermo, but we'll just have to see. And the rest, who knows? Who knows? They could end up being there. So the Flames now have 4 goalies, 14 defensemen, and 22 forwards for a total of 40 players at camp. Slowly, we're getting there. And they're making the right cuts, it seems. Calgary Wranglers training camp will begin on Monday, September 30th, so tomorrow at Winsport. Very excited for that. So there you go. There's the roster update. We kind of know who's left, or we know who's not left. So again, we still do have a big question to answer. But before we get into that, we got to talk about another great outing from the Flames. So last night, they played against the Vancouver Canucks at the Scotiabank Saddledome. Once the Pengrowth Saddledome, I missed those days. Wasn't the Olympic Saddledome before that? There might have been something in between before my time. But either way, they played at the Dome last night, and the Flames once again get the win, a 4-2 win. Another great outing, honestly, and there were a few things that we're going to take a look at here. And the first one is the goaltending. So Wolfie was not in for this one. Dan Vladar started this one and did get the win, but not the best statistics here. Again, though, he didn't play bad. There you can see he gave up 2 goals on 17 shots, which does give him that 3 goals against average and an .882 save percentage. But again, he really didn't play all that bad. Sometimes the stats, especially for goalies, do not tell the whole story. But interesting there because Vladar is kind of almost looked to be the odd man out in terms of the goaltending. But I'm sure we will have at least one video on that as we head into the regular season about kind of who will make it from the goaltending squad. Who's going to be the number one? Who's going to be backup? Who's going to be more so AHL to start? But as you can see here, Cooley also went in and again, played well. 10 saves on 10 shots, gets the shutout technically, did not give up a goal and looked very, very good. So interesting there. Great to see that our goalies, all of them are actually playing quite well. I know it's just the preseason and you're not going up against, other teams' top players, but still good to see that they're all doing fairly well so far. They all look confident and they all look comfortable. So good stuff here. And Devin Cooley, the way he talks to the media, his pressers are absolutely unreal. If you haven't watched those, I recommend going to the Calgary Flames YouTube channel and taking a look. He has got a personality, which we love to see. The last thing we'll take a look at is kind of the box score here. So here are some of the players who got some points. I'll actually start at the bottom of this one. I wanted to get Sammy Honzek in there because he didn't register a point. But again, a +1, didn't play too bad. He had a couple shots on goal. He wasn't as, prominent as he has been in other games, but again, did not play bad. He's really making a case to make this team. No points last night, but still played very, very well. If we get into who did do some of the scoring, Braden Pahal, another guy who's really trying to make the team here, gets a goal and an assist. And I know the roster will not be decided by who gets the most points in the preseason. I know that's essentially what I've been talking about throughout this whole process. But Braden Pahal is showing, he has some offense to his game as well, and very well could see himself on the opening night roster here. We also saw Ryan Lomberg play sensationally. Obviously, he just won the Stanley Cup and must have played well to do that. But last night might have been the best game he's ever played. Either way, great to see him playing really well on that fourth line with the man right below him, Adam Klapka, who got a goal as well. The fourth line, the energy line, Klapka might have made a case for himself, and that's probably what we're going to get into with this massive question we have to answer. But we saw Blake Coleman, the Texas Tiger, get a goal. Kevin Rooney, the last member of that third line, well, essentially the second member of that fourth line with him and Lomberg, of course, but he gets an assist, played very well. Weegs got an assist, Joel Hanley gets an assist, and Grushnikov gets an assist. So the D-men did a ton of the scoring last night, got lots of assists, and it was great to see that the Flames, shared the wealth, spread the wealth, and a lot of players got on the scoreboard. But like we've been talking about essentially this whole time getting up to this point, we do have this big question, and it is the Klapka Conundrum. Is he the man who should be the last guy on this fourth line? Here's an article from Eric Francis of Sportsnet. Of course, he said, Flames takeaways, Klapka does a little bit of everything in win over the Canucks. So the goal was nice, as was the celly that followed. But it was everything else Adam Klapka did on Saturday night that improved his status as a candidate to open on the Flames' fourth line. It's the Klapka Conundrum. Do you put him in? He's done everything he can, and there's a spot open on that fourth line. It could go to a bunch of players, which we will get into in a second here, but Klapka has really made his case to join Lomberg and Kevin Rooney on this fourth line. The competition is fierce, and the list of lads auditioning for the job is lengthy, but given how much the 6'8", 235-pound Czechia winger stood out in a somewhat contentious affair against the rival Canucks, there's plenty to like there. And there absolutely is. There was even a sign before this game in the crowd that said, Klapka's my favorite player with some Flames logos. And he sure played like he should be everyone's favorite player. The competition, I already read that. And no one was more excited about Klapka's latest showing than the only fixture on the energy line, Ryan Lomberg. So Ryan Lomberg loved what he saw from Adam Klapka as well. If you read this article, there are some quotes in there from Lomberg. I wasn't going to do all of them because there are so many, but Lomberg sounds like maybe he'd be excited to play with Klapka. Maybe he's really made a good case here to be the man on the fourth line. But it was the type of mettle he showed that they'll want from anyone tasked with playing on the fourth unit. Here's a quote from Coach. I thought they were our best line tonight, said Ryan Huska, who will soon have to pick between, here we go, Jacob Pelche, Dryden Hunt, both disappointing. Well, Dryden Hunt's been pretty good. Jacob Pelche, very disappointing. Walker Dewar, been disappointing. And possibly Matt Coronado or Sam Honzek as the man who will best complement Lomberg and center Kevin Rooney. So let's just take a pause here for a second. Let's dissect this. Jacob Pelche, once again, he's been scoreless lately. It just doesn't look like he's going to crack the squad. And it's unfortunate, but it looks set in stone at this point. I still don't think he has a point in this preseason. It just hasn't shown that he deserves a spot. He hasn't played all that well. Dryden Hunt hasn't been too bad. There's definitely potential there. Obviously, he's played quite a few NHL games now. So, interesting to see. He would fit on that fourth line. Well, Walker Dewar, disappointing again. He hasn't been great this preseason. So, interesting, but we have seen that he can fit on a fourth line. But here we go. So Coronado and Honzek as well. Would you put one of the younger, more offensive guys who has been outstanding in this preseason on that fourth line? Or do you save it? Do you save them for maybe a top 9 role, top 6 role, more of an offensive role? Or do you put them on that energy line in the fourth line? I don't know. Personally, I'm going with Klapka at this point. But let's continue the article here. They played a simple game, and the first 2 goals of ours were based off their work on the forecheck. I think Klapka has grown up quite a bit in his understanding of what he needs to do to stay in the NHL. So at this point, it looks like if we were to answer the big question of, who do you put on the 4th line, and Huska were to answer that question, it sounds like he's also going with Klapka at this point. We will definitely keep our eye on this. It is super, super exciting. Who knows what will end up happening? It's just so much fun. But let's wrap up this video with the comment of the day, as we love to do. And this one comes from yesterday's video about the bit of a roster change, Perek obviously going away. And I like this comment here, which was actually about the game. So it comes from Nav, and he said Klapka, Lomberg, Rooney. Sounds like if Nav were to answer our question of this entire video, the Klapka Conundrum, he would put Klapka on that 4th line. And after last night, definitely looks like the thing to do. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe, like what you saw here today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.